Okay, now we're ready to clean the carbon out of our bore. Now, if you saw previously, when we cleaned the copper out of the bore, it still had a dingy, dark look to it. It wasn't bright and shiny. The reason is that there's still carbon deposits left in that bore, and so that's what we're going to clean out now. Now, the carbon cleaner is very similar to the copper. We're going to start with our nylon brush. We'll run it through the bore, and then we're going to apply the KG1 to the nylon brush, and then we're going to do the exact same process as the copper. We're going to give it 40 to 60 strokes, and then we're going to patch it out with a couple dry patches, and then we're going to check and look and see how shiny that bore has become. And after a couple applications, it should be just as shiny as stainless steel. While we're cleaning this bore with carbon, I want to talk about a couple things. A lot of people have probably heard about a carbon ring or a carbon deposit that builds up in the throat area of your rifle. This is very prevalent on some of the higher pressure calibers. Essentially what happens is that's where your bullet engages the rifling, and where the most of the pressure that your chamber builds and the heat is built right in that throat area. And essentially that's where the baked on carbon ends up. So what you'll notice is you might not have carbon throughout the bore, but you could have some in that throat area. So by using this nylon brush, I can get right into that throat area and I can scrub it twice as good as everything else, because that's where your major carbon deposit's going to start. So I'm just going to get in here and I'm just going to work that throat area over really good. I don't want to build a carbon ring, because carbon ring's the fastest way to increase your pressure or velocity when you're shooting. Okay, now I've got about 60 strokes down the bore, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a couple dry patches on there. We're going to run them through, and then we're going to check the end of our muzzle and see if we've got a nice shiny finish or if it's still kind of dull. If it's still dull, we're going to reapply the KG1 and get some more of that carbon out of there. Let's check out that bore. All right, we've looked in the end of the bore. It's still not as shiny as I'd like it. There's still some carbon deposits in there. So I'm going to reapply some KG1 and work it just a little bit more. Probably one more set of 40 to 60 strokes in there, and that'll probably do us. We'll check it out after that, but I'm going to reapply this KG1. And we'll get back in there and work that carbon out of this bore so it's completely clean. All right, I've got another 50 strokes through there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a couple clean patches. And I'm going to work these back and forth a little bit. Really get that carbon fouling out of there. Make sure I got it all. All right, there's a couple dry patches. Let's get a good look at the muzzle and see what it looks like. If it's bright and shiny, we're ready to move on to the next step. Okay, we've checked the end of the muzzle. It's bright and shiny. I really like the look of it. I would think we've got all the carbon out of it. So the final step into maintaining this bore condition is we're going to take a patch and the KG4 gun oil, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a couple drops on the patch, and then we're going to run this down the bore, and what we're going to do is we're going to saturate the inside of that bore a little bit with this oil and make sure you get a good coating front to back, the whole bore. Work it in there really good. And then what we'll do is we don't want to leave all that oil in there. So what we're going to do is now that it's had a chance to get into all the little cracks and crevices, I like to let it sit for a couple minutes. We'll just take a dry patch, and we'll get a dry patch in there, and we'll take any of the excess oil off the inside of that bore. Just like that. And now essentially your bore is clean and ready to be taken back out into the field and shot.